Finally happening right here, right now. The Nut and Fancy review of the Barrett M82A1. I call this beast the fabulous monster. It is a fabulous monster, and you know you want one. That's why you're here. You want it. You've always wanted it. Why? Probably just because. Just because. You're right, Nut and Fancy. Just because I've seen it in video games, movies, combat footage from Afghanistan and Iraq. I lust for the M82A1. I want it. I want it. I want it. It's sexy. The caliber is sexy. And you know what? Boys, you are correct. It is sexy. And I'm with you on that. I mean, I've always had it in my sights for review. No joke, I did. This box of ammunition I bought in 2009 with, at the time, advertising money I made from YouTube. Now that advertising money is long gone. It has been for many years. This video is made possible by my donors. I will rant about that as the review goes on. Thank you, donors. But yeah, I've had this forever, waiting patiently for time. And honestly, a lot more boxes like it. That's one reason I delayed. I didn't want to spend thousands of dollars, literally thousands of dollars in ammunition to test one gun. But I said, what the heck? I better test it while I can. We live in clown world, upside down of right. I call it UDR. It's my acronym. Whatever's right, correct, time proven, truthful, good, virtuous, lovely, all that's turned upside down, and that's what you can expect from our government. So they'll come after this gun. Right now, when I'm reviewing this, it's completely legal to own a 50 BMG Barrett. It's completely legal to shoot 50 cal. Well, in my state at least. I don't know about your state. California, definitely not. But yeah, it's time to do it. Better late than never. And maybe I disappoint you with this review. I don't know. We're here to have a good time, though. I think the introduction shows that. I don't take myself too seriously. I do take my information seriously. I mean, I like to know more or less what I'm talking about. I think you'll find that to be the case here. I may make a couple mistakes. Sorry if I do. But I feel like I know the weapon system fairly well at this point after shooting about 400 rounds through this son of a gun. And I'll probably shoot more, but I'm to the point now where I need to review it. And I have opinions on it. My crew has opinions on it. So thanks to Jardine, TMP crew member, Sean, the TMPer, they both helped me shoot it. Thank you very much. And we had a couple other minor guests shoot it as well. So that footage will overlay as I talk. Footage from combat use of the M82A1, the M107 in combat will be overlaid as well. And it's going to be a fun review. I could knock it out in 15 minutes. Literally, we could be start to finish 15 minutes and we'd be done. My donors especially have told me not to do that. They like that I am, occasionally fun, occasionally funny, and at times I get serious. So I'll switch gears very quickly back and forth between those two extremes, and they like that, and they like to feature length stuff. Now it's only feature length when it's interesting. This is an interesting weapon system, and so I think it'll hold your attention. But if you're looking for a 10-minute review, this ain't it. Thanks for dropping by. Please subscribe, hit the notification bell before you leave, and more importantly, become a donor before you leave. Yeah, even though you're leaving, I want you to be a donor. Yeah, so thanks for dropping by. If it goes, I don't know, freaking 50 minutes, just break it off in chunks, 1.25, 1.5 speed. I do that all the time in YouTube. Here we go, M82A1 Nut and Fancy style. Now, before you watch this GRV on this pretty historical, let's just say legendary 50 cal semi-automatic platform, the M82A1, you probably ought to watch my philosophy of use video on the caliber. 50 BMG, Browning machine gun. I have a lot to say about that. It is about an hour long. Speaking of feature length, it is entertaining. It is, I think, informative, and I think I say some things that no one else has said about the round. Please go watch that. I will probably not be able to help myself but to integrate some of that into this video as well. For instance, let's get going here. This is a heavy gun. I should probably do some stretching exercises before I lift it. Oh, 1, 2, 1, 2. I really don't know what that does. Nothing. But it's heavy. This thing is portly in the case with the scope. This is a Burris scope, and I have a worn mount, an empty magazine, and just as it came from factory, this is 46 pounds in the case, and you're going to see overlaid video of that when Sean and I weighed it about 5 days ago. Here's the case. This is a Barrett case, only available from their website, and this is what I got to port this thing around because I didn't want to have to take it down every time, which is very time consuming, especially with a scope. It's heavy. Okay, in the POU video, I talk about that. I talk about SAWC on pretty much all 50 cal platforms. Are you ready? Are you in shape to carry such a platform around? And it's not just not the gun, the ammunition's friggin' heavy. Very heavy. Again, I'm gonna echo this super quick. Like 10 rounds of this stuff, just 10 rounds. So this box of ammunition right here, 2 pounds, 10 ounces for 660 grain FMJ XM33, basically M33, civilian version, of course. 2 pounds, 10 ounces. It's 4 ounces per round for just FMJ. I say this is a crew served gun. And by crew served, I mean you have someone there helping you, maybe carrying your ammunition for you. For you to integrate an M82A1, or for that matter, an M107, and a ported round with, let's say, 100 rounds of ammunition, maybe more, I don't know if you're ready. In addition to everything else you'd want to have in a self-contained, combat-focused system, first aid, food, water, tools, handgun. The handgun of choice, by the way, for this Barrett review, believe it or not, you're going to love this. Speaking of fun, it is going to be a Glock 17L, y'all, with an old school Streamlight on it. Fun. I know, that's a fun gun. But yeah, carry this around, mags for that gun, ammo for that gun. Holy cow, it just gets out of hand. The reason I bring this up is because in some ways I have to beat on the fantasy of owning an M82A1 a little bit. This review, it's going to be fun. It's already hopefully been fun, but is about reality of owning the gun, operating the gun, and I might save you a lot of money. Now, when Guy sees combat footage of the M82A1 in action, they are probably taken into deep thought, into lustful ways of wanting that system for themselves, knowing that it has standoff capability, knowing that it has knockdown capability, all the things we know about 50 BMG. But I'm going to tell you right here, right now, at the outset of this GRV, I think you would be better served by a Sapper, a semi-automatic precision 7.62 by 51 AR-10. There you go. I just saved you $10,000. You're welcome. This is a much more versatile platform. It will get mostly done what you need it to get done. This, by the way, is a Palmetto PA-10 with a concussion muzzle device on there. I just put that on. It's awesome. And I did coat this myself in gun coat. And yes, it is glossy because it's sexy. Wearing an old Burris scope, 1-inch tube scope in a LaRue mount, LT-158. This is a great weapon system. So basically an M110, it will get done what you need to get done. So think very seriously if you need to go down the road of 50 BMG. Again, the POU video covers all the realities of that, cost, SAWC, all that stuff. When we focus on this though, it's heavy. It's heavy. Now, you'll find videos of guys shoulder shooting the M82A1, and that's kind of nifty, but I think it's a novelty. I think most of us are not able to shoulder shoot it for very long, especially at longer distances. It is a bipod gun. That's why it comes with such. M60 style bipods a little bit better because they're lighter. They work very well, by the way, jumping ahead to features, and they fold forward. And this has a back monopod on it. That, dude, is how you're going to shoot this gun. So, crew served weapon, probably shot from prone. Just know that's what you're getting into. Now, I know I've said all this, and you're on the other end going, I don't care. I still want it. I love it, Nut and Fancy. Please, please, go on. Okay. Maybe I can keep talking you out of this gun. I'm not really here to talk you out of the gun. I'm not. But I am here to discuss its realities, and that's what I'm about, the realities, and that's why guys have stuck with me for all these years, waiting for this review, I guess. Philosophy of use, specifically on this gun, the M82A1. I like focusing on a military philosophy of use. That's what I did in the POU video, but now we're talking specifically about this platform, a semi-automatic Barrett. The barrel recoils, yes, it's heavy, but it has relatively good firepower at 10+1. That's pretty excellent. Semi-automatic, so faster than a bolt-action rifle. That's exciting. Yes, philosophy of use is, in my mind, already proven. It's already put out there, and it's exactly what the U.S. military has used it for. The Marines and the U.S. Army. Some Navy usage as well. Here we go. I'm going to read just an excerpt of this. I'll put a link, if I remember, below to this article. It comes from American Rifleman magazine. It is very excellent. It's an author talking to, I think at the time, Eric Poole. He worked for NRA in some capacity, I forget. Join the NRA, become a member, stay a member. I know they're imperfect, but they're the largest organization that fights for you to keep guns like this, according to God's Constitution, by the way. But it has some really good excerpts because apparently Poole, that is Eric, was a user of the M82A1. So this is a unique soldier's perspective on the gun. I'm just going to read a couple parts. He said the Barrett was a big help in maintaining perimeter security, because even though the 25 millimeter chain guns of the LAVs, that is light attack vehicles, are more powerful, you cannot run their turrets all the time because you'll drain their batteries. I didn't know that. I never ran one of those. I'm an Air Force pilot, so what do I know about LAVs? And the only way to recharge them is to run the engine. Interesting. So we used the Barrett to mark targets for LAV. Oh, we also used the Barrett to mark targets for LAV gunners who had trouble picking them up in the confusion of the battle. Also interesting. Interesting. In southern Iraq, the desert provided long lines of sight. Interesting. But the intense heat created a great deal of mirage that made range estimation difficult. Once you had your range, the Mark 211 ROFIS, that is high explosive incendiary armor piercing, the acronym is HIAP rounds, developed by the Norwegians, proved to be very accurate. By the way, I would love 1,000 rounds of Mark 211 ROFIS. If I'm saying that right, I don't really care if I am. We were issued them with a Barrett instead of the standard M33 ball, which this is right here. We're talking POU on the M82A1, which was not as accurate. I've seen that, but worked out well enough and could be used in a pinch. We did not use the Sabo light armor piercing, that is slap round, because its high pressure and velocity would ruin the barrel almost immediately. Wow, I didn't know that. Because in the POU video, I was thinking, wow, I'd love to have some slap rounds to shoot out of an M82A1, but according to a soldier who used it, it would ruin the barrel. Who knew? Who knew? If you have an M82A1, you fired slap rounds, which, by the way, are about $100 to $150 a piece if you can find them. It's a big if. But if you fired it, let me know. Out of this gun exactly. Later in the article, Sergeant Wynn crewed an LAV-AT, that stands for anti-tank. Since there was no chain gun on this particular platform, I kept the M82A3 Barrett on the roof of the LAV and often shot it from there. I love this part. I thought it was great in destroying technicals and light armored vehicles like BMPs. Like I said, I mean, the philosophy of use has already been proven on this amazing, fabulous monster. And it has been proven with the U.S. military. They've already blown up some BMPs, technicals, power stations, helicopters, aircraft, other vehicles, IFVs, all kinds of stuff. It is considered, and I think accurately so by people who know, an anti-material rifle in this caliber. Not really a sniping rifle, anti-material. So like we're talking about, watercraft, boats, vehicles, engine blocks, taking them out. denying enemy certain things at long range, being able to take them out. Sergeant Wynn continues. He said they could be, speaking of long range, could be engaged out to 2,000 yards or more, but with the current ammo, it's not really accurate enough for sniping. The M40A1 was a better choice for that role. Thank you, American Rifleman, for that very excellent article, which, by the way, is a 2004 article, so it's rather dated. But philosophy of use specifically for the M82A1, if I were to weigh in, and I'm a newbie to the gun, I admit it, I'm not an expert in the system, I'm not an expert in the round, but from what I know now, not a sniping rifle. We'll look at how it's shot, I'll show you paper, maybe you're impressed, maybe you're not. We'll wait for that. But I think of it just like the military uses it for an anti-material, anti-vehicle platform. Way better than probably anything else you could legally possess. I mean, better than 338 Lapua? Yes. 300 Winchester Mag? Yes. Better than your 308? Absolutely. I mean, even in an FMJ load, it's pretty potent.
It's just to the right.
To a point. In the POU video, I did say shooting this stuff, and I pretty much just shot FMJ and some tracer. But shooting this stuff, I personally, and actually the crew as well, Sean and Jardine, we all came away and just said, well, it is powerful, it's pretty good, but it's not as devastating as we thought it would be. I thought I would get my AR 500 hardened steel targets, I'd shoot it with 50, they'd be ruined. So I'd have to go out and buy new targets. That didn't happen. Not with an FMJ load. Now in the 50 BMG philosophy of use video I do talk about the specialized loadings that the military uses for 50, which are not easily obtainable by a civilian. Now in that video, I think I may have misspoke and said they're illegal. They're not illegal. You can own them. They are, because they go out of a rifle. They're not shot out of a pistol. And current U.S. law says out of a pistol, it's a no-no. Out of a rifle, it's a yes, yes. Kind of a gray area. If they were to look at it again, I'm probably sure they would change the law. But for now, legal. So I may correct that in that video. But you don't know the source of such specialized ammo. You don't know if it's legitimate. You don't know if it's been remanufactured from pulled components. You don't know if the powder has been overcharged. There are dudes on YouTube who have shot 50 BMG, supposedly surplus, specialized ammo, whether it's API, T, API, APDT, whatever he was shooting. It might have been a slap round, I forget. Blew up on him. Injured him, I would say, severely. And you can look that up. But yeah, you don't know the source on it. So bottom line, all this specialized ammo, and I'm probably rolling some screenshots right now, is that it's extremely hard to find. Much of it has been out of production for a long time. It's not intended for civilians. Yeah, you can legally own it for now, but hyper expensive usually. And again, the source of it is unknown. And you could end up blowing up your gun, blowing up yourself with this stuff because some rube in a basement found some pulled 50 BMG specialized bullets and then he just reloaded it and sold it as legitimate military loading. That happens. Would I like that stuff for an M82A1 for serious, without rule of law, serious end of world purposes? Absolutely. I think this gun calls for it. And the stuff I read to you from soldiers using the M82A1, and you're seeing overlay video, that's the kind of rounds they're using. They don't use a ball ammunition unless they have to. But it would be fabulous to have, you know, HEIAP, APEI. I know a lot of acronyms. Just armor-piercing rounds for this. It would be legit. But when we talk about philosophy of use, think of it as an anti-material gun. And in that application, if you can take and manage its SAWC, effective. Effective. Like no other gun that you can go out and buy from a gun store. And by the way, thanks to Gunnies, well, not Gunnies, but Wyatt at Gunnies. He's the one that allowed me to check this gun out. This isn't my gun. It's on loan via a federal form for TMP test and review purposes. But it was Wyatt that allowed me to check this out. And he had this on his freaking shelf. And he also has 50 BMG ammo on his shelf. Let's talk to that just briefly. How many stores can you go? And again, I'm kind of echoing what I said in the POU video, but how many stores can you go in and find a gun like a Barrett sitting there? He doesn't have a dozen, he has one or two. Occasionally, he doesn't have them that often because they're expensive for him as well. But how often do you go in and see that? And then you have rounds on the other shelf you can go buy. Enjoy it while it lasts, bro. Because those days are coming to an end when you can find that. They're going to just attack guns like this in lots of, not lots, but in some states, this is already illegal, like California. California? Yeah. It's already illegal. And I love, by the way, what Barrett did. As soon as they passed that law, what is it, in 2004, California said, hey, no more 50 cal Barretts are allowed in civilian hands. You know, I think they grandfathered them to an extent. And then Ronnie Barrett said, cool, we're not going to service law enforcement agencies that have our product anymore in California. Since civilians can't own them, we're not going to sell to LE agencies anymore. And he followed through with that. Big Pro 2A company, Barrett. That's another reason I love Barrett. And I really respect Ronnie. I've met him personally, talked with him for hours. He's an awesome dude. I think he's retired from the company, but the company soldiers on, making awesome products. Philosophy views for the M82. Let's press on into features. Now, do you want this thing to be lightweight, nothing fancy? Define lightweight. Now, the follow-on to this gun is an M107. That is 4 pounds lighter. It comes in a 20-inch barrel, 29-inch barrel. It's made by Barrett, of course. I think they did it at the request of the U.S. military to lighten the M82A1 platform. It's more suppressor-focused. It has changes to the bolt, supposedly helping suppressor usage. Has a different flash suppressor on it. I should say recoil mitigator on it. It's chrome-lined barrel, chamber, different coatings. It's about 4 pounds less. I think that's a move in the right direction. I don't know if I'd want this gun to be 14 pounds. I think a good goal eventually with different material technologies would be probably 20 pounds with a good muzzle brake. I don't know if I'd ever want it lighter than that, just because it is a big cartridge developing a lot of muzzle energy, concussion, blast, and recoil. Okay, so yeah, it is what it is. The question is, if you're if you're a civilian and maybe you have a ton of money and you're watching this video and you're like, well, do I get an M82A1 or an M107? I would go with an M107. That's just me. It's going to be lighter weight, a little more technical, a little bit different. I'll roll in some overlays as we talk along here. But, oh, by the way, it's supposedly more accurate too. And that is another big attraction to maybe getting a 107 or over an M82A1. But you might have to go with what you find. I mean, because these aren't around in a lot of places. Even online, they're kind of hard to find. I mean, I skimmed through Gunbroker. They're here and there. But the M107s I'm seeing out there are like $12,300. This one's going to be, it's still expensive. It's like $10,300, but it's going to be $2,000 less. If you're made of money, get the 107. But I wouldn't like bypass an M82A1 either. Again, combat proven. I mean, a lot of combat. The first country to adopt the M82A1 was, I believe, Sweden, wasn't it? Yeah, Sweden in 1989. But what really cemented its reputation as a combat, reliable 50 cal platform was Desert Storm. And I think it was the USMC that adopted it first. They ordered 100. They absolutely loved it. Later on, they ordered more, and they got it in the form of the M82A3. And then other services followed to include the U.S. Army. And in both services, soldiers just loved it. Yeah, it wasn't the most accurate thing. Again, we'll look at that. But in terms of reliability and desert dust, yes. In terms of hitting power, yes. In terms of capabilities that maybe a pocket of soldiers didn't have before the M82A1 rolled into town, absolutely. Okay, I got sidetracked a little bit there. Here we go with features. I absolutely love this muzzle device. It absolutely works. 2 ports on each side. It's attached with torque screws underneath the barrel. It did not loosen. Again, on the M107, it's going to be different. It will still be the same, mission to mitigate recoil, and that's what this is about. And it does work. It does work. You'll see similar devices on the Barrett M95 and 99. Very excellent. The barrel is fluted. This is a 29-inch barrel. I don't think it's chrome lined. It's just a regular barrel. You'll have to upgrade to the 107 for that. I measure it at about 1.25 inches in overall width. It is stout. It is a stout barrel. Okay? And what makes shooting this gun, jumping ahead to how it's shot, pleasant is its construction that Ronnie Barrett came up with. And it's a pretty interesting story. Ronnie was a photographer, and he was, I think, near the Tennessee River, and he saw some riverboat that the Navy was using come down the river, and he saw two M2 Brownings on the bow and the stern, and he started thinking, is there a way that I could produce a shoulder fired 50 cal semi-automatic firearm? And so dude just went back and started drawing, started thinking about it, and this is what he came up with. The M82A1. That's pretty sick. And his innovation really was making it enjoyable to shoot because this barrel will recoil like so. See this? That's what makes it pleasant to shoot, akin, I say, to about a 300 Winchester Magnum. Some people liken it to a 12 gauge with buckshot. I think both of those are good analogies. Now we're going to go into a very boring part of the video where I read a technical description of the mechanism of the Barrett M82. Why am I doing this? Well, because I want to get it right. I don't want to misspeak, and I want to cover the details in case guys want to know this. And while I'm doing this, you won't have to look at my ugly face. I'll do some overlay of me shooting it, the crew shooting it, or something fun and cool. Here we go. Maybe on second thought, I'm not going to read this entirely. It's poorly written. It really is. It's complete horse shit. Not in terms of technical accuracy, but in terms of grammar. For instance, listen to this one sentence. After short travel, the lower part of the accelerator arm held by the receiver upper part, comma, is already hinged in the bolt carrier, and the middle portion strikes it back to the barrel by a rod placed in the bolt carrier, comma, transferring part of recoil energy of the barrel to the bolt, achieving reliable cycling and unlock it from the barrel. I'm sorry, I don't know what I was thinking. It's horse shit. Okay, basically all you need to know is when you take this gun down, there's two springs that are captive, and they function to absorb that recoil energy. And yes, there is a rotating lock breech block with an accelerator arm somewhere in the receiver, and it has something to do with this working properly. One thing I will add is that it does have a sliding plate extractor in there, in the bolt, which, by the way, has a fixed charging handle on it. That is just a big chunk of steel right there. You'll see us using it in field. Okay, the receiver, upper and lower, are made out of very heavy gauge bent steel. This one, of course, is coated by Barrett. I did not do this. This was coated by factory, no doubt in Cerakote. I didn't really measure the thickness of the steel. It doesn't really matter. But they fit together kind of like a clam shell. And there is a retention pin right here that you pull out. Don't lose that, by the way. That would be a bad day. You might want to have some spares. And that's how you'll unsandwich the upper and lower apart from each other and take it down. It is meant to be stored and transported in its Pelican case, which is included. Now, I have said I keep it together for testing purposes, because although taking it apart and putting it together isn't like horrible, it is time, and I didn't want to have to ever take the scope off. I just left it together. That's why I got that case. So that's upper and lower. It does have BUIS in it, which is interesting. This is your front sight. The rear sight, it can't really pop up because the scope is on it, and I'm not taking that off. I'm not losing zero on that sucker. Very coarse front sight. Probably meant mostly for emergency use. The rear sight is PEEP variety. It is graduated from 1 to, I think, 1,600 meters. I didn't use it in testing, so sorry. Full Picatinny rail on the top. It is attached properly for this US made firearm. There was no movement whatsoever. It did not come loose during testing. There you go. That barrel again is quite badass with its fluting. I think that's mostly to help dissipate heat. It doesn't do much for lightening the gun up, says me. I'm not going to take it apart for the video because it would be pretty much impossible in this configuration I'm in right now, and it adds too much time. The bolt has 3 lugs, and I didn't mention it does have a sliding plate extractor on there and a spring-loaded ejector if you care. Here's the magazine. The magazine itself is somewhat portly. I think my piece of paper dropped 1 pound 9 ounces if memory serves for the magazine. That's correct. 1 pound 9 ounces for an empty steel, not aluminum, M82 magazine. If you're going to get one of these, I recommend you get at least 3 mags. I would prefer 6. That's kind of what the military deployment package includes. Pelican case, they usually have a Leopold Mark IV scope. I don't think that's enough magnification, by the way. And then they'll have 6 mags with it with some other cool accessories like a Wendy's gift certificate, which is interesting. The trigger, by the way, is completely atrocious, and I am ashamed that Barrett would ever send this out the door with a trigger like it is. Every crew member that shot it hated it. Has a long take up. I don't have a weight for you. It doesn't really matter because it's so shitty. It really is awful. You don't know when it's going to break. It's a long pull. It almost feels like a double action trigger. The Barrett does, the Barrett M82. Now, there's a way to gunsmith it to make it a little bit better, but again, it's more expense. But I guess if you're buying a $10,000 gun, what's another $200? Yeah, I would definitely gunsmith the trigger. It's complete shit. That being said, we did shoot it entirely through the testing phase with a trigger as it came out of the Pelican case. It is workable. It's what the military uses. I really haven't read any reports from soldiers that said, hey, we hate this trigger. Can we change it? I think guys just get used to it. I think it's because they just haven't had a good trigger and they don't know any different. Now, the controls really, in a lot of ways, are just like an AR-15. So you have, in this case, you don't have a T-bolt, T-charging handle back here. It's a side charging right here, which is what it is, reciprocating, by the way. But this is all AR-15. We have a rotational safety right here, right where you would expect it, right? And it works well, engages readily. And then you have an AR-15 style pistol grip. I think you might be able to put on AR-15-1 if you wanted, but I would just stick with the one that comes with it. It worked just fine. I didn't have any problem with it. And then we go to this portion. Here comes another minor criticism, maybe a major criticism on the M82A1 from Nut N Fancy. Barrett, you need to put something on this steel receiver, this upper receiver, so dude doesn't have to rest his face on friggin' steel. You could have just a thin layer of something like Sorbothane, which you're using for the recoil pad right here, so heat, cold doesn't transmit to his face. Now, when we shot it, it was in temperate conditions. Cold, windy, but not really cold and not really hot. But I can imagine in like desert conditions like Iraq, this sitting out in the sun, even in this tan coloration, oh my gosh, it would literally burn your face. So that's a minor criticism. On the M82A1, you have this back here. So you can use it to rest, gain different positions of advantage for stabilizing the gun. It works well, or sandbagging it if you want to. I think that's really what it's meant for. This monopod was indispensable for our shooting. It worked absolutely flawlessly, no problems at all. You just loosen this knob, you go up to the adjustment point that you want and just hold it and then lock it in place. It's nice and dirty from our testing. We shot off the dirt and we also shot off hay bales, which I thought was fantastic. That was really fun, and we didn't have to get down the mud that time. So that's cool, I like that. And I think it is included on your M2A1. The M107 has a different pod. I don't know if it comes with a gun or if you have to buy it separately, but they do have a different arrangement back there. The butt pad is fantastic, by the way. It's not sticky rubber. It is that material. I think Sorbothane is what they call it. So it's a little bit slick, but it absorbs energy nicely. It doesn't absorb water. I love that. Really excellent. Let me show you this side of the gun. Oh yeah, the carry handle. Now, when you mount a scope, you're gonna have to play around with this because it can be a problem and interfere with your optic. And I had to work on this because I had to get my eye relief right on the optic. And I'll put a link to this scope down below, this Burris, and it actually worked quite well with this gun. It took the recoil no problem. It has great dials on it. It's an MOA scope, not an MRAD. I work in MOA. That's the way it goes. But we really liked the scope. It was fine. But when you put your handle on, you're going to have to experiment with it. You have to change the direction. But as you can see, I'm just clearing the scope bell right here. See that? Works good. And I put a cap on this one because it was so dusty where we're transporting it. This one is busted already. I think it's a Butler Creek cap, which are pretty shitty actually, but I just pull that off. And then when I shoot it, I put it back on. But I'm starting to cap my scopes more and more. The bipod I mentioned early in the review, very M60-like, also very excellent. It worked just perfect. These buttons adjust the height, really easy to do, included. And that's features of the M82A1. Overall, it is a very simple gun. When I picked up the M82, and I knew this before I got one, but I was like, I think it's pretty basic. It's just got some big old springs in there. Barrel travels back about an inch to absorb some of the recoil. And, you know, it's basically just a very simple semi-automatic firearm, albeit how they achieved it to handle the power of the 50 BMG is pretty incredible. So kudos to Ronnie Barrett and team. I want to give them credit where credit's due. Did I forget anything? Doesn't really matter. How did it shoot? Well, first, the shooting dynamics, and I'm talking ergonomically, of shooting an M82A1 is fantastic. All the crew, including myself, we were surprised at how pleasant it was to shoot. That being said, it's freaking loud. There's a lot of concussion. It's not wise to stand to the side of this muzzle brake that looks like it came off a damn Panzer in World War II. No, don't stand to the side of it, although we kind of had to while we're filming, but we've got double plugs. I use really good inner plugs, really good hearing protectors, and I'm pushing them to my head as I'm filming, but it's still a lot. Probably not a great idea if you're just shooting it recreationally. But the dynamic of shooting it, again, it's about a 300 Winchester Magnum for me. Very manageable recoil. Quick follow-up shots are very easy to perform with M82A1. We were impressed and everybody loved it. Everybody. We're just like, man, this thing is really good to shoot. We were surprised. We thought it'd be like an artillery piece, hurting our shoulder, you know, blowing our eardrums out. I didn't really know what to expect. So very pleasantly surprised with that. Accuracy. Oh, first, reliability-wise, 100%. No problems whatsoever in all-around shot. And that is to include 50 BMG surplus ammo from a reliable source, by the way. Tracer ammo, Hornady 750 grain AMAX, and I think that's it. Oh yeah, I shot some PMC and American Eagle, so we kind of had a smattering of everything in there. I'm saying we, I mean me, because I'm the one that bought it all. Here's the paper. Now remember, this is not a bolt action rifle, semi-automatic rifle, and we have a moving barrel. Okay? If we have a moving barrel, that should tell you something. That means we don't have absolute stability in launching the projectile out, and it is reflected in how an M82A1 shoots. And that is, I don't consider it a sniper rifle, but if you feed it really good ammunition, you can do this. Okay, and this is 100 yards. This is Jardine shooting it. There's AMAX rounds. Now, you may say, why didn't you go to 300 yards? Because I'm shooting ammunition with this AMAX that's $9 a round. I want to make sure I'm hitting the damn paper. I don't want to be sailing it off paper. If I'm spending money, I want to hit paper. And with that 100-yard zero, I can shoot at any distance with my ballistics computer. There's AMAX. So that's not a horrible group. It's a 2-shot group. That's all we did because it's expensive. And that's about, what, 2 inches? Maybe a little bit under 2 inches. There's a 2.5-inch group. That is amazing. That's PMC 660 grain. Oh, that actually is Jardine did help me. Jardine brought a couple boxes out, so sorry, I forgot about that. Thank you, Jardine. American Eagle, that stuff I've been holding up this whole time. This is at 100 yards. Forget the X1s, those are sight-in. That's the group. Is that horrible? No, it's not horrible. It's decent, actually. But it's not sniper quality. I mean, we're not even MOA. We're like 3 MOA there. That's what you kind of can expect with good FMJ ammo. Now, if you shoot like D-linked 50 BMG ammo, you ain't going to get groups like that. It'll be more like this. The best load that I love for this is that Hornady 750 grain AMAX. It is very expensive, but damn, that thing is amazing. The ballistic coefficient on that is 1.050. This is what we got with that. Now we're shooting MOA out of an M82A1, at least with that group. Look, who's on the trigger? I think Jardine shot that. So that is outstanding right there. Opened up a bit here. Not bad. Not bad. I gave myself a mulligan right here, whoever shot that. And then that's a decent group. My average velocity I wrote out of the M82A1, 2730 feet per second, extreme spread 123, standard deviation 34. If you care. If you want to hit something accurately, you're going to have to spend a lot of money feeding your M82A1, specifically that Hornady load, unless you're some guru loading your own rounds and you have that capability. And then you can probably work up a load that will shoot accurately. Now, I found an American Rifleman review on this gun, and they shot, it was IMI ammo, 633 grain. They were getting 2935 feet per second, which I was like, holy cow, how did they get that? I didn't get that. But this is a long time ago, like in 2003, and they got 3.4 MOA out of it. And I think that was at a military range. So that really echoes what I got from mine with ball ammo. So think of it as a 3, maybe 4 MOA gun platform with good ball ammo. And then if you feed it something really good and you're a good marksman, which we are in the project, you'll get approximately MOA, probably 1.5 MOA. Well, I showed you the paper. So I have one group here. That's not 1.5, that's 2. But that's not bad. I mean, most of these groups, that one, and that one, are pretty impressive. But that ammo is $9 a round, maybe $10 a round. Holy shit. Can you afford that? So it can be accurate. One thing we noted, and I do have to roll this in the review. One thing we noted, and that was frustrating for us, is when we pushed it out, I'm talking like 800 yards beyond, I had an IPSC set up, and we didn't hit it that frequently. And now we weren't shooting that super expensive stuff because I just can't afford that. We were shooting, well, like American Eagle, PMC ammo, and we weren't hitting it that often. And Jardine and I were out there and we're like, what's going on? Because our trigger pulls are good. And I was just telling him, I was like, well, you have a deviation, of that group. And then when you push it out, it's kind of shotgunning out there. Yeah. And I think that's what you can expect with what you're probably going to shoot out of it, ball ammo. So at that distance, at 1,000 yards, you're kind of all over the place with an M82A1. That's what I've seen. We shot it at 850 yards with that military ball, D-linked machine gun ammo, and it was the same thing. You'll see the steel plate. It did kind of dent that steel plate, but not badly. It's still reusable. But my groups, I mean, once I got my zero down, my groups were about like that on that plate. But we had, various shooters shooting it, and you'll see hits all over it. It's just kind of more of an area weapon with that ammunition at 1,000 yards. Well, I was at 850, which brings us back to the military use, because some military people act like it's a sniping rifle. There have been recorded kills with an M82, maybe an M107 weapon system at long distances. And again, the military gets access to these accurate loads that maybe you and I don't have. They get a lot of training, and they have someone else footing the bill, more importantly, so they can practice. I think my gut feeling is if you fed it like the AMAX 750 grain load, you shot it a lot, you got good with it, and you knew that load, I think it could be used for anti-personnel purposes up to 1,000 yards, maybe even beyond. I mean, this is actually considered a 2,000 meter weapon. in effective range, 4,000 meter maximum range. But I think that's more of an anti-material application for a human-sized bad guy target. Yeah, it's doable, but with ball ammo, I just say good luck. Good luck. Would I buy an M82A1? Where's my cone? Did I drop it? I probably dropped it. Here it is right here. The answer is absolutely. I love this gun. I know it's expensive. Very expensive. And let me hammer a little bit on Barrett for that. I think it's overpriced. I think $10,000 for such a simply created firearm is astronomical, albeit they're the only game in town that have something like this. And they know that, and they've charged accordingly. Now, the good side to that expense, and this might seem weird to you guys, but I do believe this, is that it's not in the hands of a lot of people. The people who do buy this are high quality people, and so they're usually competing with it, maybe in the 50 caliber Shooters Association, which I talked about in the POU video. And so you don't have it popping up in a lot of, I don't know, shenanigans, which would get highlighted in the news, and lo and behold, it would be banned. So the high entry cost keeps its owners, in my opinion, most of them, I'm sure there's exceptions to every rule, in the high quality crowd.
Man, the concussion coming off
Okay,
that thing is
and
awesome.
with good moral systems. And so I said in the POU video, though, I have nothing against a civilian owning a BMG, and I don't think anyone should that has common sense, because they'd go, oh, well, I don't think if, a civilian should have a 50 BMG. I'm like, well, 22 can be just as deadly, right? And this is a government of the people, by the people, for the people. And so the people should have this type of thing, because the government is the people. And that's a fundamental difference between us and the commies, is they don't believe that. They think we're peasants and that we should be ruled by government overlords, and we're a bunch of effing morons. Yeah, so that's how I feel. I'm so glad to get this off my chest. The M82A1 is an outstanding weapon system. Overall, I am impressed with it after having shot it. It performed in some ways better than I thought in terms of shootability and ergonomics. In some ways, about the way I expected in terms of accuracy, and maybe a little bit less expected in terms of power. The FMJ load, as I said in the POU video, is a little bit underwhelming for me personally. It's like a big 30-06. I don't think it's magical whatsoever. I don't think it has amazing penetration capabilities without the specialized military loadings of which I've spoken about. The gun is really kind of handicapped, the way I see it. You're going off half-cocked. Now you get some of those specialized loads in here, the armor piercing, incendiary, the Rufus. It's not Rufus. What the hell they call that? The Rufus. I like calling it the Rufus load. Oh my gosh. High explosive, incendiary, and armor piercing. Whew. And the dude said it's accurate. Oh, I love that. You can't find that. This, and if you do find it, it'd be, I don't even know if that particular one is legal or not. You're going to be shooting FMJs. There you go. Recommended. Thanks again to Gunnies, Wyatt at Gunnies, for loaning me this gun.
That was it.
Would I buy it? Will I buy it? I don't have that money. But maybe I get on a payment plan. Maybe I do it on long-term loan and it becomes a crew member, and we can do some other fun stuff with the 50. It depends on views, dude. Everything depends on views and support from the audience at large. Speaking of which, if you see this hat and guys say, hey man, can I get a TMP hat? I just don't have the viewer support, to be completely honest, because we have to buy 10,000 hats at a time. If I had 250,000 views on this video and 0.5%, that's 0.5%, bought hats, it'd be 12,500 people buying hats. That would work, but I don't have that. It's going to be more like 35,000 views, and if 0.5% buy, that's 700 hats that we get our ass handed to us in terms of sales. And then I need someone to run the web store, because Doodle doesn't do a great job with it. I'm so sorry. And we're done, ladies and gentlemen. Finally, the M82A1 50 BMG review. I do think the world of Barrett firearms. They're awesome. Will I review an M107 down the road? We'll see. In this clown world we're in, I don't know how long these are going to be legal. I don't even know if I'll be able to get one of those, but we'll see. Support the views. Become a donor. Stay a donor for the rest of your life. You've probably seen the banner running here and there across the bottom. Patreon.com is what I've been using for years. It seems to be working. The guys there are awesome. It is a clubhouse, and I talk to them all the time and comment and message as much as I can. Thank you very much. Lieutenant Colonel Nut and Fancy from Wyoming, safe and sound in the TMP warehouse, signing off. Great gun. It's sexy. It is a fabulous monster. See you next video.
Wow.
It's dropping low, isn't it?
Oh!
Sick. Look.
That's awesome.
Epic. That's a hit. 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 Hit.
That was a good hit.
Hit. Oh, sick. Oh my gosh.
Hey, you got one light out.
That's all right. That is so epically fun. Oh my gosh.
Oh!
Sick. Look.
That's
Epic.
awesome.
Epic. That's a hit. 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 Hit.
That was a good hit.
Hit. Oh, sick. Oh my gosh. Hit. Miss.
Put it under. That's cool. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so Sean,
Yep.
you're not going to be around when I do the review.
Okay.
Well, what do you have to say about this gun in philosophy of use?
In philosophy use, I would say philosophy can't speak. Tell you what.
Barrett 50 semi-auto, 107, 82. Do you think it's worth owning?
So it definitely has a POU in my mind for being able to stop vehicles.
Yeah.
That's what this thing, I think that's what this calling is. It's not ultimately accurate. It's really heavy. It's not the kind of gun you can run around with.
Nope.
So you're gonna have to place yourself somewhere where you're trying to defend a position and stop vehicles from ingressing. I think for that POU, this thing is excellent.
So when I review it, I'm going to focus on a military philosophy of use.
Yeah.
Because that's interesting, and what you're describing is the military philosophy of use.
Yeah.
It's an anti-material gun.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to be better served if you're just trying to stop, 4 or 5 guys from coming up your driveway and you got a, half-mile long driveway. You're going to be better served with something like a 308. But
Yep.
for a vehicle, a 308's not going to do a whole lot, especially if they got any kind of armor on the front of it. But this thing really puts out a lot of energy, and this is a vehicle stopper.
Yeah.
So that's where I'd say this thing fits.
Would you own one if you had a ton of money?
In my current situation, I'd say no.
Yeah.
As a suburban weapon,
It's a waste of money, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not going to do it. It's not going to do what you want it to do. You're going to be better served with like a
Sapper.
yeah, exactly.
How about out here? So you have a place out here in the middle of nowhere,
Yeah,
rural. That's when it
no.
really kind of comes into its
You
own,
got
right?
this much space. If your driveway is 900 yards long, then absolutely.
Overwatch.
Now you're talking.
Overwatch.
Absolutely. Because now you can just sit maybe even a little bit off to the side of your house, and you can have this thing out there with some night vision, with some optics. And I would say even 2 people would be better, you know, serving one of these than just one.
Right. Sean, I think this is a crew served weapon.
Yeah.
Two
Or
dudes to run
at very least, if you've got something like the Wolverine that you can haul this thing around.
Yep.
If you could take this and a 308 battle rifle and set them side by side and haul all of your ammo and everything back and forth with a UTV, then absolutely, man.
You got
this thing
something
is
then.
killer. Oh yeah.
That's
Now
a system.
You got a good setup.
Don't expect to move fast with this unit, though.
No.
You're not covering a lot of ground.
Nope.
Even if you're in shape.
Yep. And from the moment you park to the moment you can actually get this thing up and out of the car and ready to shoot, it's a little while.
It's slow.
So yeah, I mean, like I said, I'd pair this thing up with a battle rifle, no problem. But it's a really cool gun. It's just for the money, I think you would be better served to get other systems in place first.
Agree.
So let's put it that way.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.